rather than assuming you know. Why? Because when you think you know, you probably have no idea. And I'm talking about a deeper knowledge, okay? But first, what feeds into this idea? What feeds into these things? What feeds into the assumptions that we know? Good morning, guys. Good morning. Hey, face of change. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Good morning, family. All right, we got a chat going on this side. We have several cameras. We have one over here for you guys. Good morning, Shaka from Hawaii. And then we have a camera over there, a camera up there. And we're on 7 different platforms every morning, okay, same time. Now, I do not know, okay, what gives people the idea that they know things, okay? Well, it's our perception. It's things that we've been taught. So first, let us talk about false altars. Okay, what's an altar? It's something you worship at. Okay, false altars. So when we talk about God and mammon, okay, and for you non-Christians, follow along because the esoteric knowledge applies to you too. Okay, God and mammon. Okay, when education becomes a false altar, people assume they know. Okay, so how does that happen? Well, so education, and I'm talking about indoctrination education, okay, because when you go through a system, okay, and we're talking about, Jesus and the system of things, okay, Jesus said, I will be with you until the end of these systems of things. One of these systems is the educational system, okay? And what it does is it takes you from here, okay? You're not your body, you're not your name, you're that spirit that lives in here, that energy that lives in here, okay? God lives in here, the kingdom is within. When you apply it to something else, okay, when you spend a lot of time in something else and you invest in something else that is of the physical world, that is man-made and not God-made, okay, this is God-made, you are God-made, okay? But when you put your faith or your trust in something man-made, now that becomes your altar. Why? Because now you rely on that rather than the kingdom. Okay, how does that work? Well, so you spend a lot of time, you invest your time. For 12 years in your initial 12-step program, grade 1 through high school, you are investing your time, your life, okay? 12 years of your life in the educational system. It doesn't matter if it's public or private, it's just education. You are becoming indoctrinated into the system. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not good or bad. It's how you use it. It's how you apply it. It's how you understand it. It's the understanding of it and the application of it, okay? The application of knowledge is power. Knowledge is useless if you do not apply it. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Jay. So because you cannot serve God and mammon, that means if you put your faith in a system, a man-made system, because everything outside of this, outside of the kingdom, out here in the physical world, is nature. The only thing out there is nature. And things from someone else's in here. That's all that's out here. And how do you survive this system? How do you navigate this system? How do you, for lack of a better term, beat this system? Can you beat the system? Well, it's not about tearing down the system. It's not about beating the system like a war or like a battle or like that, or like a game. Although life is a game, right? And it depends on how you play it. However, what it really is how are you going to use this system and how do you see the system? Because a lot of people look, but they don't see. They listen, but they cannot hear. Why is that? Because they're blinded by the system. They're indoctrinated into the system so well that they believe the system is their God. It's like believing money is your God. Why? Well, money brings the good stuff, right? The system brings the job that brings the good stuff. It brings the money that brings the good stuff. But what are the roots of this? Well, the roots of this have to go back to God. When the root or the base or that fundamental understanding is God, and the system is just a component, it's just a step, it's just a thing, it's just a process, then everything comes. But we see people being ruled by the system, right? We see people living and dying by the system. This is what Bob Marley was talking about when he wrote all those songs about the system. Okay, so mammon is not only money, it's a system of power. It's also a system of power that promises security apart from God. Because now the security is taken from here, from the kingdom, right? And assigned to another system. So in the modern world, education, one of these systems, wears that mask that it provides security. Why? Because, well, when you have a college degree, now you have security. There's no such thing as security. I'm sorry to break it to you, all you college grads. I'm sorry to break it to you. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being a college grad. We're not hating on college grads. Okay, I'm just saying. I work with some brilliant people. I coach executives, and in that coaching, right, I have to deprogram a lot of people. And when I say deprogram, I mean they have one component, but they don't have the other. They believe in the school, they believe in the position, they believe in the education, in the degree. But after a while, with all of that schooling, okay, and if you extend it out into graduate school, okay, there's even more. A friend of mine was a professional student for 25 years. 25 years he spent in college, studying everything. In that situation, and that was pretty expensive, but the way that he did it was he was a Catholic priest. So the church was paying for this. And that's why he could spend 25 years in that process, because it's expensive. The average everyday person can't do that. It's too costly. But in that process, and the reason why I'm illustrating this is not just education, okay? We're gonna go through a lot of systems. We're gonna go through the political system, the banking system, all of those systems, slowly. But the purpose of all of this is so that you can manifest more easily. This is not about pushing religion. It's not about pushing the Bible. It's not about, the Bible is a reference for this one in here. It references this esoterically. But when you read it as a story, it presents itself in a different way. Manifestation is subconscious. It applies to everyone. Okay? It's not about you need to read the Bible. It's not about that. But if you need to reference these things esoterically first, study esoteric knowledge. Then look at the Bible, because then you look at it with different eyes. Then you look at it with a different perception. The majority of the people that I see preaching the Bible are preaching the story. And the story has morals. The story has value. The stories are good. In the New Testament. The stories in the Old Testament get pretty violent. But this is about the systems that exist in the world that get you to think differently, that give you a different perception, that make you feel small. And when you feel small, you are being stripped of your power, because your power is in here. So good morning, Sarah. I see you. Good morning. Good morning, user. Good morning, fam. So when you feel less than, when you feel small, when a system, okay, because there's many systems, when a system makes you feel small, it just moves you off your life path. Because your life path comes from within. It unfolds from within. Okay? If you want to call this source energy, if you want to call this life force, if you want to call this God energy, if you want to call this a spirit, soul, okay? There's a difference between spirit and soul, but some people call this soul. Okay, there's a difference. We'll go into that one day soon. But in the Bible, in the Christian understanding, Jesus says, first seek the kingdom and all else will be added unto you. It works the same way with everyone. It doesn't just work that way with Christians. There's no discrimination like that. It's your subconscious. Every human being can do this the same way. But not everybody explains it out like this. So I want you to have a good understanding of this because it'll help your life. It will make your life easier. Good morning, good evening. The listening seamstress. Good evening from Scotland. Yeah. Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, you guys. Thank you. Jay's here. So why is this important to know? Because the more you get grounded in a system, it's not just education. We're not hating on education. Okay? But if you look at what education really is, and you understand education, then you understand why it can work against you in the spiritual sense. Because it takes you in here and applies it to something out here. And then this thing out here, this entity out here, begins to become the governing force. Because slowly you start to put your faith in that instead of in here. That's why. Oh, okay. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for dropping by. Take care. Have a good day. I'll see you soon. Sarah's one of my clients. So the mind is shaped not only by information, but by allegiance. Okay? What you align yourself with. If you align yourself with the degree, with the position, with the job, with the corporation, with those things, then your allegiance is in the physical world with those physical entities, those physical representations of someone else's in here. And it's a collection. It's not just one person, right? It's a collection. So, what's the I do not know part versus the I think I know part or I know part? Okay, so I have a very special client that I enjoy being around. I enjoy this guy. He's a cool guy. The face of change. Let me see. Sure does. It doesn't align with individuality. We don't all fit in a box. Yeah. So it's factory, but it started as factory education. But let me tell you about one of my clients, and he's one of my favorite clients. I have a lot of. Sarah's one of my favorite clients. She is so amazing. This lady is so amazing. Um, but this guy is amazing too. See, I work with a lot of amazing people. These are educated people. These are brilliant, brilliant people. And when they start to understand the other side, when the light bulb goes on, amazing things happen. Okay? Science itself is a religion. Education in itself is a religion. Okay? There are priests of science. There are priests of education, professors. Okay? And these are high priests of those things. So, so this client of mine, we go walking every Sunday, and I donate that time every week to him. Okay, and the reason I do this is because we have practice to give in in our companies, all of our companies. So we give a certain amount. We don't overdo it because we have electric bills to pay. We have devices to register. We have we have expenses. But we have always incorporated that practice into all of our companies. So it's an important part. So I donate this hour to this guy, and we go on these walks on Sunday. So tomorrow I'll be on a walk with him before we do the live. And why it's important is because he is starting to understand the spiritual versus the physical. Now, when someone has been indoctrinated into, let's say, the education side, okay, they have the degree, they have the position, they have those things. Okay, and then education becomes a false altar. Because why? Because the magic happens in here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah said, "Thank you, Junior. You are amazing doing what you are doing. What you do amazingly well. Oh, thank you. Truly grateful for you. Thank you. Best education for me, who I spend time with. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Most people live in a constant present pretense. In the present, right? They live in the present with a pretense of knowing. When you talk to somebody, right? And my client, my some of my clients have this issue as well. They feel that if they don't know enough about a particular subject that you're speaking with them about, they feel bad. They feel ignorant. They feel uneducated. They feel, at a deficit. But here's what I do, right? I always come from I do not know. If I know a little bit, then I'll express that. I'll say, well, I know a little bit about it, but tell me, what about it? Okay, because most people pretend to know who they are. Okay? Most people pretend to know what happens after death. Okay? They pretend to know what God is. They pretend that, even, you know, uh, even what will make us happy or what will make them happy. So, in other words, they believe that, well, when I have the car, I will be happy. When I have the house, I will be happy. But when you come from I do not know, what happens? Well, now you open up yourself. Okay? You open. When you think you know, you close. Why? Well, because you know, right? If you know, then being inquisitive doesn't serve you. So so you close. But the mind begins to open in I do not know. Because your subconscious is required to answer you. Okay? Your subconscious. So when you write an affirmation, let's say you write it in the form of a question. So I am so happy and grateful now that I am wondering why this happens. And end it with a question mark. And watch what happens. You could be mowing the lawn one day, you could be taking a shower one day, you could be driving one day, cooking in the kitchen one day, and the answer will hit you. And you'll know that you asked the question. So putting affirmations in forms of questions work. And you do get the answers. Okay, and then that circles back to ask, believe, receive. But when you come from I know, right? Especially if you think you know, maybe you're not sure you know. But someone is speaking to you and you're like, oh, yeah, 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 sure, yeah. You're playing along like that. What happens to the other person on the other side? Well, they don't share as much. Why? Because they think you know. They don't want to be redundant. Okay, it's the same principle as rewarding the giver. We talked about that yesterday, right? When people give, just say, wow, thank you, thank you. Because now you open the channel. Children have wonderful imagination. There are good teachers we can learn, especially. Oh, yeah, of course. Of course, you learn for children. But you don't surrender that quality, face of change. Okay, we talked about that a little bit. I don't know if you were here or not, but we talked about it. And that has to do with when you start to turn into a teenager, you start to leave imagination behind. You start to leave all of that behind and you start pretending. Okay, so unique abilities, disability. Yep, I work with a lot of children with autism. I work with children with ADHD. I've done that for 37 years. Mm-hmm. Good. I'm glad you do that. That's a great thing. That's a noble thing. My father was a professor, and he worked with uh, a lot of special education kids, and that was his mission. That was his thing, and he was qualified to teach in any university, but he did that. So when you come forward with that pretense that you know, it's the biggest barrier to perception. Why? Because perception begins to change. Okay? When you say, I know, the mind closes. When you say, I do not know, the mind opens. Okay? When the mind opens, okay, we're talking about subconscious. Okay, conscious, subconscious, superconscious. 3 states of awareness within you. So your conscious mind states, I do not know. The subconscious, okay, believing that you do not know, starts to look for evidence, starts to pull evidence. Now, sometimes the knowledge comes from within you. Sometimes you're not aware that you know. Sometimes you already know. Okay, this is why they say you're born with infinite knowledge. Okay, knowledge and education are 2 separate things. Okay? The knowledge aspect of what you are born with, okay, is based on, some of it is based on genetics. Okay, some of it is based on actual experience. But when you start pulling from the subconscious, you're pulling from everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard, everything you've been subjected to, everything in life. So when you, from 0 to 7, right, your first paradigm is being formed. So you're a sponge. This is why they say children are sponges, right? Okay, children are sponges. When you're a child, you start absorbing. And you hear bits and pieces of things. Okay? You hear adults talking. If you're raised around an adult, right? The children that are raised around adults are like miniature adults. There you go. They're sponges. And they start picking up these things. They start, so call it data, if you will. They start retrieving data. They start accumulating data. You're no different. You accumulated a lot of data. Okay, and depending how old you are, okay, the older you are, the more data you've collected. So now when you are beginning to come from I do not know, this also opens the channel to the subconscious. And now you can channel from the subconscious gathering data for you, retrieving the data that it already has. Your son and I are ultra rare genetic. This is incredible. Ah, okay. Okay. So these things are passed down. Okay, these things are passed down through genetics, some of these things, some knowledge. Scientists are still working on it. They're still discovering more about it. They're still learning more about it. Epigenetics has something to do with it because neurons that fire together wire together. Okay, but this is a little different than that. We're talking about the process of becoming open to retrieve the data from your subconscious. We're talking about the process of opening, okay? So, not I know, this is I know, right? I do not know does this. And now you're open. Now the subconscious can work. Now the subconscious can retrieve data on whatever it is the subject matter is. And you will start getting intuitive thought from the superconscious. Okay, conscious, subconscious, superconscious. Because the superconscious functions on what is in the subconscious. And if you've decided with the conscious mind is the gatekeeper. If you've decided, oh, I know, it completely shuts down that process. And one of my clients was telling me, well, I feel stupid when I go into a meeting and I don't have the answer for something. And I'm like, don't feel stupid. That's when you open, right? That's where your perception gets sharper, your intuition gets sharper. Why? Because the superconscious or God or universe or source will work with your subconscious. And then the doors open. As you take the steps, doors open, the right people come into play, the right information comes out. Have you ever been speaking to someone and telling someone how to do something and then you start saying things that you didn't even know you knew? That's channeling. Channeling comes from two places. The superconscious, God. Okay, that's the network that we're all plugged into through awareness. Or your subconscious. That's data that's already stored. So when you start to channel, I channel every morning. I sit here and channel. I'm not channeling right now. But sometimes I sit here and I just channel. Because there are things that I need to say that serve a higher source than myself. God first, then me. But when this begins to happen, right? And what do? You're there and you're actually speaking words and you're giving knowledge to someone that you didn't even know you knew. And you're going, boy, I hope I remember this, right? Okay? So everyone channels. This is not black magic. This is not evil. This is not anything like that. This is subconscious. This is all the data you've ever accumulated. When it comes from the superconscious, it's coming directly from God through you. Can you channel dark things? Oh, sure, yeah. But your subconscious dictates whether this is good or bad. Because your subconscious holds your beliefs. Okay, the subconscious tree. The roots of the tree are your beliefs, your core beliefs. What you believe to be true in life. Okay, so if you believe in demons, you believe in, that kind of thing, well, there's your beliefs. Okay? If you believe in God, okay, if you believe in source, if you believe in universe, whatever you believe. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm not here to influence your beliefs. Okay? But that's what it is. Those are the roots. Now, your paradigm is the trunk of the tree. Your paradigm is how you see the world, your outlook on the world. How do you see the world? It's based upon what you believe. Now, everybody believes differently. Okay? But whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, you're a believer. Okay? And there's a difference between believing and knowing. Okay, we'll get to that later. But your paradigm. Now, your first paradigm is 0 to 7 years old. You always refer back to that paradigm. That paradigm changes, and you can change the majority of it, but people rarely change all of your paradigm. Your paradigm dictates your actions, the fruits of the tree. You will know them by their fruits, by their actions, by who they are in here. Why? Because who they are in here, their beliefs in here, will dictate what they do out here in the physical world. This is why when you see someone with a very orderly desk and they're organized in here. So when you come from I do not know, what you do is you open this possibility now. Now there's possibilities. Now there's infinite possibilities for absorption, for learning, for channeling. Not channeling voodoo or black magic, channeling what's in your subconscious. Okay, your subconscious is the culmination of all of your senses, your entire life. So, how old are you? If you're 40, that's a lot of data. More than any computer built. They're working on bigger ones, but yeah. Definitely bigger than any consumer computers, put it that way. If you're 20 years old, considerable amount. Okay, I don't think there's any teenagers in our audience, but if you're a teenager, still quite a bit. By 7 years old, you have the fundamental patterns that you're going to carry into your teenage years and into adulthood. How do you change these programs? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. If you take my name and you put it in any AI, any browser, and just put teaching method after it, you'll get the whole teaching process. You'll get the whole instructional process. So you don't have to pay me for that. I'm not here to sell you a course. Okay? I'm here to wake people up. Because there's some serious things going on in the world and people have different ideas of it. Very different ideas. Okay? And a lot of these, if you want to call them agendas, a lot of these systems have built-in agendas. And a lot of these things are dangerous if you do not know. If you're one of the sheep, if you're one of the cattle, if you're one of the crowd, if you're one of the, okay? But with awareness, okay, comes solutions. But the solutions are in here in the kingdom. This goes for everyone. This is not just Christians, okay? You don't have to believe in God. You're a human being. You have divine guidance in here. You have divine energy in here. All of these things apply. That's one of the things, Manuel. That's one of the things. But you have everything in here. And when you do affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization, the societal hypnosis starts to dissipate. When it starts to dissipate, you will see the truth, and the truth will set you free. So if you come from, I do not know, what does that do? It stimulates the appearance of the truth. It starts to dissolve the societal hypnosis that you're under. The calendar, the clock, the schedule, the job, all of this, the mouse wheel. Okay, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Saturday, soccer with the kids. Sunday, church, family picnic. Monday, back on the mouse wheel. And you are kept busy. Taxes, prices, all of these things keep you busy because you have to survive, have to survive, have to survive. You're living in survival mode, okay, until you wake up. Because survival mode belongs to mammon. You cannot serve God and mammon. So mammon is the physical world entities, the systems of things that Jesus was talking about. Gautama Buddha talked about it too, but in a different way. Krishna talked about it too, but in a different way. It's all the same thing. Thank you, Peabody. Thank you. But when the hypnosis begins to fade, okay, because it comes back, okay? Human blinders look like this. And slowly, it goes like that. Or you can say the veil, whichever you prefer. The veil lifts, and when the veil lifts, you see the truth for what it is. And guess what happens? You need to go back to work. You need to go back to the schedule. You need to pick the kids up from school. You need to do, you need to do, you need to do, to do, to do, to do. And what happens then? Then the veil goes down, and now you're back in the physical system. But when you see the truth, at least you know it's there. So your allegiance or your alignment should not be in the physical system itself for trust purposes, for belief purposes, to align with something man-made. Because that's not where your strength is. Your strength is in here. You're not your body. You're not your name. You're that spirit that lives in here. And that spirit has power. That spirit brings you everything you desire. It brings you who you are. But doubt and fear push you off your life path a little bit. Just a little like that. And then it comes back. And then you fear again, and you doubt again, and it goes like that. And then it comes back. Doubt and fear. What is the opposite of fear? The opposite of fear is love. What was Jesus preaching? Love. Why love? Because you were born in love before life happened. You ever see an angry baby? Right? I say that almost every day. You ever see an angry baby? Babies are born in love. When you were a baby, you came into the world in love, and then the world happened. The world is not necessarily evil. It's not about that. It's not like, oh, we live in this evil place, and no, it's not that at all. It's your perception, how you see the world, your paradigm. When you talk, you hear people talk about paradigm shifts. Okay. Oh, you need to shift your paradigm. Why? When you shift your paradigm, let's say it another way. When you change the way you look at the world, it begins to change. Why? Because everything has a good and bad, the yin and yang, positive, negative, light and dark. It's easy going through negative experiences to get shifted into the dark. And when you're in the dark, it's hard to see the light. This is what the Bible calls the valley of the shadow of death. The shadow of death, darkness. When you look at the esoteric meanings of things, you start to see it. Okay. If you look at a situation long enough, without judgment, without reacting to it, just observing it, it will begin to shift as you change your mind. As you have patience, it will shift. Okay? It'll take some time. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Because there's always a good side to something. You just need to look for it. So the seek and ye shall find happens within. It happens within the kingdom. It's not about seeking out here. Okay, these things are not for that. The eyes are not for seeking. You seek in the kingdom, you close your distractors. When you seek in the kingdom, everything starts to be revealed. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, thank you. Hi, Tumi. Good morning, Tumi. Thank you, good morning. Thank you for coming. So you don't need to see with your eyes for things to be revealed to you. But when the veil lifts, when the blinders start to come down, before they go back, it's almost as if it hits you in the face and you go, oh my God, yeah, wow. And then it closes again. And then you wish the blinders come off again. and you're trying to make it happen. You're trying to go, oh yeah, now I want that. Yeah, I wish that lasted a little bit longer. But you have to go back. You have to go back into the physical world. You have to go back to the job, back to the office, back to the kids, back to, okay, to the family, back to whatever it is you go back to. The calendar, the clock, the things that pull us into the physical reality. Your body is the physical interface to the physical reality. Your body holds you here. But you're that energy in here. You're that spirit in here. No, darkness isn't evil. But people get dark in their actions. Don't misunderstand me. So when things are, let's say, for lack of a better term, not operating in light, not operating of love. Okay, so I was talking about love for context. I know sometimes it's hard to follow me. Good morning to me. But when you're not operating in love, you're operating in the absence of love. And there are two aspects of that. And the dark, or what you see a lot out there in the physical world, people getting dark, okay, it's just the absence of love. There's no love involved. So when you come from, I know, it blocks existential intelligence. What is that? It's the deeper meanings of things, the deeper questions of things, the deeper questioning of life. So logical intelligence asks, how does this work? Okay. Existential intelligence asks, what is the purpose behind this? What is the meaning of this? Why does this exist? That's existential. When you get to understand the purpose of things, the existence of things, you go, oh, okay. But it leads you in a circle. And you go back to that. Everything has a good and bad side. The glass is half full, the glass is half empty. So the idea is to go from the glass half empty to the glass half full as soon as possible. And this takes practice in your subconscious. This is where manifestation happens. You want to be good at manifestation? I can make things happen in a few days. And you can ask Jay, she sees me write these things, and boom, they happen. Why? Because it's in my subconscious, because I've conditioned. Let me show you what conditioned is. Let me show you what it looks like. So this is the affirmation that I wrote this morning. This is the new book that I'm working on. And this is the old one. So this is just one that I've used up already, but I keep it to show everybody. I have like 12 of these in storage. Okay. But unless you condition your subconscious or exercise your subconscious, it doesn't work as sharply. It doesn't work as effectively. The light needs a shadow, yeah, yin and yang. That's, yeah. Thank you for explaining that. There is opposites, yin and yang, light and dark. I said that earlier. I guess she wasn't here, or he wasn't here. Anyway, okay, follow along. But existential intelligence is important. Where do you get this from? You get this from the superconscious. And this is the magic of I do not know. This is the magic of questioning. Question everything. Instead of assuming the answer, question. How does that work? You know, people ask me all the time, oh, are you familiar with this? You know, I'm like, tell me how it works. No, I've heard a little bit about it. Tell me how it works. And they tell me how it works. Sometimes I learn, sometimes I get the wrong answer, sometimes I get someone who thinks they know, sometimes I get some knowledge. So the difference between education and how it plays into it is like when a child looks up in the sky and they see, wow, they're in a state of wonder. Wow, right? Someone who's been through school looks up and goes, oh, clouds, pretty soon we get rain, it's going to evaporate. They get the science. So when you look at everything and go, wow, I wonder what the process for that is. I wonder what it took to make that. I wonder what it took to create that. Those are the questions I ask when I go to the zoo. Every once in a while, I'll go to the zoo. I haven't been there for years, but I used to go to the zoo every once in a while and just look at the creations, the animals, all the different animals, and go, wow, that it really took a lot of creativity to think that animal up, right? When you see different animals. But when you have that scientific explanation, that educated explanation, right? The existential intelligence is severed. In other words, the deeper perception becomes limited. Because then it's no longer, right? I do not know. So there's no deeper questioning involved with the subconscious. So how does this help you in manifestation? Oh, it helps you a lot. It helps you a lot because it allows you to stay open. When people come to me, they're like this. They're like this. Okay? And then we do the vocalization and they start to go like this and they relax inside because the vocalization helps you from the inside out. And then you slowly open. When you're open, that's when your subconscious goes, oh, we're open? And now you begin to access things that you haven't accessed for a while because you're no longer closed. Now, when you write your affirmations, your subconscious, okay, I'm open. How many ways can you receive something? According to quantum physics, unlimited possibilities. A lot of people are under the assumption that, well, it takes money to get a brand new car. You know, my client wrote an affirmation for 2 months. We got a relatively brand new van. It wasn't brand new, it was like 10,000 miles on it. Immaculate condition. Immaculate condition. Chris Ortiz. Hey, Chris. Aloha. Aloha, Chris. Just by writing the affirmation for 2 months. See, we're all plugged into awareness. We are all plugged in to the superconscious. If you want to call it God, superconscious, whatever you call it, but it's that. The 3 states of awareness: conscious, subconscious, superconscious. So instead of limiting, you want to be unlimited. Why? Because when you start predicting the how, okay, we always say the how is God's job. When you start predicting the how based upon what you think you know, like, okay, I know this can come this way, so you're going to expect that. And then you take the steps. You start taking baby steps towards your goal or towards whatever you want to manifest. And you get to step 2 out of 5 maybe that you've planned because you planned the how, right? You think you know how. You think you know, but you have no idea. And you get to step 3 and it takes you out to left field and you get your goal and you go, whoa, I never expected that would happen. That's the work of God. And this is why Jesus said the kingdom is within, so you don't go without. And it's the difference between relying on the kingdom, because God lives in here. Okay, God lives in you. It's the difference between that and relying on man-made substances, systems, things. Okay, it's like if I worship this pen. This is man-made. What's going to help me more, this or this? If I believe in this pen, I can do that. My subconscious, after a while, will go, okay, we believe in the pen. The pen's going to bring us good luck. Okay. Rabbit's foot, whatever. Believe in the pen. Okay. I'm going to put my faith in the pen. The pen brings me money. Oh, okay. I'm going to rub the pen for good luck. It will bring me money this week. If your subconscious believes that, it will bring you money based upon this interaction that you're having with an inanimate object. But if I put my trust in this pen and my belief in this pen, now it becomes mammon. Now I will choose this over this. I will choose mammon over God. God, universe, source, however, life source, however you want to say it. But now I've done this. So I've created a God. And this becomes the altar. This becomes the instrument of worship. Now, I've taken the power away from here, the attention from here, and I've put it over here. And that is going to seriously curtail the blessings that are meant for this one. Why? Because now it's directed here. So the ask, believe, receive process happens within, inside. Okay, ask, believe in what it is you're asking, and you will receive. Okay. False altars, when false altars become a thing. Okay, so the educational system is a false altar. The medical industrial complex is a false altar. There are some people who actually believe that the medications and the treatments and all of this cures. But then it leads to side effects, which leads to more medicine, which leads to another circle of things within that system. What if you choose in here? Well, there's diet, there's exercise, there's natural cures, natural things. Jay shared a video of people chanting, where they chant these things, this chant, and it was shrinking a tumor, and they showed it on camera. But that's in here. Energy, frequency, vibration. Okay, and velocity. They were chanting with strength. It's the same thing we do with voice. But the process is, the results are different. We're not shrinking things. We're shrinking emotions. With our process, it works on anxiety, fear. All the negative emotions are rooted in fear. But that's what it gets rid of because you're expressing outwardly. There are many people who are introverts. There you go. There you go. There are many people who are introverts who are prisoners in here. They're hostages in here because they can't find a way out. When you can't find a way out, You perceive limitation. You perceive lack. Once you get out, you start to experience abundance. Why? Well, because there's a whole new world now, right? Some people hide in here their whole lives. That's a terrible place to hide, okay? Because now you've changed the perception in here from abundance to scarcity because of the negative emotions. And what happens out here? You see the reflection out here. Okay. So I have clients today and I need to get going a little early, a couple minutes early. Okay. But just be aware that systems, man made entities, okay, this includes clubs, organizations, it includes all of the industrial complexes, the military industrial complex, all of these things, they can all become false altars. Okay, they can all become mammon if you put your trust and faith in them. Okay, so focus on the kingdom, seek the kingdom first, everything will be added unto you. Okay, say it another way, everything will manifest because now your life path will not be filled with fear and doubt and it will unfold properly. Okay, so we will see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Hawaii time. We want to say thank you for joining us, and we're going to disconnect our Streamlabs. Take care.